What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassity. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, welcome back, Nightmare Success In and Out listeners. This is where you come for what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? I know I sound like a broken record, but please follow, subscribe, share, like this thing out. It really helps the show. Comment too, always great. So who are we talking to today? Well, for those who watch this show weekly, I'm not in my studio here. I'm interviewing Brandon James, and I'm over at his studio. And he was nice enough to, Skylar's behind the deal here doing his thing. And thank you, Brandon, for letting me come over to your place. We're actually St. Louis guys, so we're just down the street from each other. So this is nice to be able to do it face to face.
Heck yeah.
To tell you a little bit about Brandon. So Brandon James, he's an entrepreneur. He's a podcast host. He's a motivational speaker. But the crazy part of his story is about 6.5 years ago, Brandon was walking out of prison with nothing, thinking the world was over and it would be better off without him. And he hit that rock bottom moment. And what he's been able to do since that rock bottom moment and stepping out of it, he created Brandon J. Roofing, one of the biggest roofing companies in the state of Missouri. Doing over $60 million annually now. It's one of the most respected roofing companies in the state. And like I said, he's a sought-after motivational speaker, coach, podcast host, whatever it takes. One of my favorite quotes that I heard him talk about on another show was, you either are a victim or a victor. You have a choice. And that's the way that he's built his company culture. Brandon's built a company that has incredible training. It's got incentives that helps people thrive. It's motivated on recognition. But what I love about it is he really focuses on the family, the whole family. And you know, they say they're all counting on him to make it all work. And he's got a great team around him that helps make it work. And he does a lot with the community. And they always are looking for ways to make things better in the community, which I love. I can't wait to unpack all this with Brandon, but before we do, I want to recognize our show sponsor, Auto Plaza Direct. You know, who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots, looking for a car, then you spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to buy a car. It's kind of like a root canal appointment. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle getting a car. It's called Auto Plaza Direct. They're your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge, the new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Brandon James, welcome in, my man. Thanks, you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks for inviting me over to your place.
Absolutely. No, thanks for coming. Super glad it all worked with the schedules. And, yeah, definitely glad to get to meet you face-to-face and get to jam out with you for some time today.
Well, I kind of hassled you a little bit because I really wanted this interview. And, you know, sometimes I do that just when I know that you're busy. Yeah. I'm really glad that you made time to do it. But, man, am I fascinated with your story. One of the things I was just talking to you guys about before we started filming, we've got two audiences in this world. We've got the one that this goes out to on Spotify and Apple and all the other platforms, but we also go into the Adovo platform on the tablets in 1,100 prisons. And this story and platform is about breaking the narrative, that people who make a mistake, they can make something happen with opportunities, with their second chance. And I think your story has all those elements. But I want to bring us back, Brandon, to before all this. Growing up as a kid, I know you talk about your challenges. Can you kind of bring us into that world as a kid growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, it was, I had good parents, man. And just doing the best they could. and then, there were some more unfortunate circumstances, and just shit happened at the end of the day. And it was, my parents separated, and I was really angry. I turned to all the
How
wrong
old would
things.
you have been when they separated?
10
Yeah,
10
so
or
it'd been
11, somewhere right there.
Like
Yeah.
5th or 6th grade.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. And man, it's just like, I had an older brother and older sister, and I was angry. I felt like, oh, okay, you stuck it out for them, but not me. Whatever. I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
And just was angry, right? And I just turned to all the wrong things. I tried weed for the first time. I was probably 10 years old. Started drinking when I could get my hands on it. And, then I realized very quickly that, I like substances, I like that numbing feeling.
Probably an escape.
For sure. And I realized I like to party just a little bit different than everybody else. The first time I was incarcerated, I was 12 years old. They put me in the juvenile system. And
what was that like for you at 12 years old? Because, that's something that not every kid goes and experiences.
Man, survival.
Yeah.
Like, I got to survive, I remember the juvenile center. I'm from St. Charles. That juvenile center was full. And so they sent me to Vandervender. And so I was, now I'm down in the city, and it was just, the juvenile's a little bit rougher down there, from St. Charles. Yeah. And it was, just survive, survive. And, I don't know. I was kind of.
Did you feel like that was a mark on you coming out? Because you think I'd go back to school?
Honestly, like I kind of was, I was definitely attracted to the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do the wrong thing for some reason, and I don't know if it was attention or I've thought about that. Why did I turn? Because I was always really good at sports, and I just kept turning to the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And I really don't know why, but I went in and out of the juvenile system, and then I ended up getting certified as an adult when I was 16, and I moved in with my brother at that time, and got an apartment, and moved into his apartment, and he's like, you're gonna pay half the bills, and you're gonna go to work. And
growing up fast.
Yeah, that was he's kind of at that point in time, is like, we work hard and we party hard,
mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of what we did. Me and all my buddies got into the trades. I dropped out of school, started swinging a hammer
mm-hmm.
when I was like 16.
Yeah.
And just started went into the union when I was 18. And man, but I always had this this other lifestyle I was living too, selling drugs, doing that type of stuff, and just living that lifestyle as well. And I knew it wasn't going to keep going on. It wasn't going to last. But honestly, I couldn't see past, I didn't think I was going to make it to be 21,
Everything was short term.
So short term. And, but the one thing I did was I went to work every day, and I stuck with the same trade,
Yeah.
I started building houses, and I was a journeyman carpenter by the time I was 23, and that was when I got incarcerated.
How'd that nightmare land on you? What happened?
Yeah, so I was essentially selling drugs, and somebody tried to take them from me.
Yeah.
And they got hurt, and I went to jail.
So you would have been 23.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And you had already experienced something pretty jarring at 12.
Yeah.
What was life like for your mindset going into that world at a 23-year-old age? How long were you supposed to be there?
Well, I had a chance to get out early, and 5. I ended up doing 10 years and just doing all of it.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah, and man, I felt so stuck. I just did not have a choice.
Yeah.
That this is the hand you were dealt.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I had to figure out how to do the wrong thing the right way is what I was going to figure out, you know? And that was my big aspirations of how that, when I was a kid, I remember young going back, and this is after my parents split, and, now, we don't have much money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember going and just to kids' houses to play that they just had it all together, the American dream, right? And I remember from an early age telling myself That's not for you. That's only for people like who grow up like this, who grow up making all the right decisions. And like I'm saying, I just remember telling myself that from an early age, like, and the only way you're going to have anything even close to that is you're going to have to figure out a way to cheat the system, you know? And I just told myself that lie for so long, you know, and just bought into it. And so that in my mind, it was like, okay, I'm going to be the biggest and best drug dealer I could ever be, you know?
So weird, because I just interviewed a guy, Owen Hansen, and he was a good athlete. He went to USC, and then when they won the 2 championships back to back. But his thing is that he was just a surfer kid. His dad was a construction worker, and he never felt like he fit. And so he got into dealing drugs in college and kind of became the guy there. And when he got out, his friends were going to the NFL, and he wasn't. And so he became the biggest bookie in the United States. And then got in charge with the cartel, which was a long story. But what's interesting about that is how your mindset can get into that role. Like you get almost like tunnel vision into this is what I've got to do because I don't fit. And then everything else you can rationalize.
Yeah. That was, I definitely, when I was younger and coming up, I never felt like I quite fit in anywhere, you know? But it was like going through all of this stuff, like as I was younger, and it's like, and today looking back, man, and even as we're sharing this story, looking back, man, I can see it all, like God used it all as a divinely crafted plan to create the man I need to be today.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah, man.
That's deep. So when you doing that amount of time, there's all kinds of ways that people do their time in prison. How did you choke that down? Like, how did you eat that elephant?
Yeah. I definitely was not a model inmate, you know. Man, I remember going in there, and I just had the mindset of I couldn't, you know, it's my first time in prison. You know, I knew a lot of people in here. I didn't just make a mistake and go to prison, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I belonged. And, you know, I had it in my mind that, you know, I couldn't be successful out in the real world. Like I couldn't live right out there. I couldn't be successful out there. I'm gonna at least be successful and like live right in here. And I wasn't meaning like up to like the guard standards, right? And it's like, okay, so what do I need to do that? Right. And I like, what do I need to do to get have power, control, money, all of it, you know? And I just started handling myself accordingly. You know, it's like out of that 10 years, I did 6.5 in the hole, you know,
it's a long time in the hole. I mean,
it wasn't flat. It was, you know, the longest time of flat was just right at 2 years. And, you know, but it was a year here, 6 months there, you know, the shortest time was, I think, 4 months, you know.
I got to tell you, people who haven't experienced that, and the only time I really experienced it going in the hole is when they processed me, because in the federal system, they usually have a camp down the way, but they processed you through the big place. And the crazy thing is, Brandon, is you go in, and for me, I voluntarily surrendered, which is a very weird thing, just to have somebody drop you off and you just check in your freedom. You know, it's almost, it's very weird for your mind. But one thing I was thinking when they put me in the hole was, I wonder if they know I'm not supposed to be here. You know, like this wasn't in my paperwork. Like, is this where I'm going to be for my 5-year sentence? And it's a real mind buzz because because you're only by yourself. So and I mean, I guess sometimes you have somebody else with you, but how did you handle that time in that solitary?
Man, it's like, if you don't know yourself going in, you'll definitely get to know
Find
yourself. Routine though. Stay just like routined. Where, man, like just every day, stick to the same routine, working out, reading, doing like just developing a routine inside of this little 8x12 cell, 8x10, whatever it was. And man, and just like watch the days till I see the board again, that the ad seg board. God, that used to like, ugh, man. And it would be so crazy, because it was like after a certain amount of time, I think might think I'm crazy for saying, I think a set of like cabin fever sets in,
Yeah.
you know, and like a little bit of craziness because you're literally not leaving the cell.
Right.
And, you know, 3 showers in the middle of the night, you know, 2 a.m, cold. If you're not standing at your door, you're not getting it. And so it's like, man, reading, writing a lot and just working out, you know, but you adjust. And like people say, oh my God, I could never do that. And it's like, we really don't know until you're forced to.
I was just going to say, I think one of the things that going through a horrific situation like that, I think one of the things that you come out not knowing because you've not been to that type of situation is what you can adapt to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic what your brain does. And then if you do adapt to it, it does give you some kind of sense of weird confidence that I can do that.
Yeah. There's nothing this world can throw at me outside of, you know, taking one of my loved ones from me that like, man, I can get through anything. I feel like, I've caused more pain and discomfort to myself than 99.9% of this world could throw at me. Right. And so it's like, that's the mindset I try to meet each day with and remind myself of.
So Brandon, I mean, so it's a long amount of time in that type of situation. When you started getting 6 months to a year, knowing that you were going to get out, what were you thinking about reentering society? Like, what did you have going? Because everybody gets freaked out.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds a little weird. Like, why would you get freaked out about getting out? And I think the reason why is because it's kind of like the old Shawshank Redemption movie. You get so used to this bad, ugly routine that becomes the routine you know. Yeah. And you get so far away from society freedom that becomes kind of like the unknown. Right. And so people get anxious when they know that they're heading back out into the real world. What were you thinking?
Man, I was so far gone, you know, and just on that side, that like the dark side, essentially, you know, I was thinking that everyone is going to look at me and be able to tell everything I've been through and done. Like I was just, you know what I'm saying? Just a lot of fear of being judged and just fear. And, you know, so I was going home to my mom, like, so my mother's a saint. I have really good parents all around. And, you know, I was going home to her house, right? And, you know, she's a retired school teacher, volunteers at church. She retired with 2 masters and a PhD.
Smart lady.
Yeah, right? So when I told her I was dropping out of school, she was not, obviously.
I bet she didn't think that was the great number one idea.
No. But so with that being said, I'm going, and she's just an awesome woman, right? Great, she's a saint. I was going home to her house, and you know I got a good job waiting on me. My brother, you know, he's got a company. He was getting up and going. And I go right to work with him. I'm a journeyman carpenter. I always have that to fall back on. I got all the opportunity in the world out there for me, and a family that loves me. But I'm bringing me with me, you know. And the only thing I had been developing in myself was like a monster, you know, honestly. And
you felt that?
Yeah, every day I'm just plotting and scheming, you know. And it's like just, you know, I was part of a legal organization, and I was definitely all in with that. And you know, that was like, it's what I ate, breathe, sleep, and eat. You know, at the end of the day, and it's like I couldn't see anything else for my life. I thought this was it, you know, and in my mind it was like, you know, if I can just get out here and at least last for a few years, you know, I'm gonna get out here and I'm gonna try, but if I can at least get a couple years, you know, and
that's still short term in it, I'm thinking.
Yeah, right. And so, you know, when I go home, it was, man. Well, even leading up to it.
Did it feel like you'd been gone a long time they had
no. Now come back is like, no, it did not. And that's like, it's scary. Yeah. It feels so short. It's scary. Yeah. You know? And if I'm not intentional, I'm intentional about, I wake up in a prison cell every day. I vision that. Yeah. And I'll explain that deep, but like, I don't ever want to forget it. Yeah. You know? That's one thing I do every morning when I wake up. Is right when I wake up, the first thing I've got a pretty strict morning routine that I've stuck to, that I started doing when I was inside, and just I realized the power in that discipline and just kept it going. But one of the things I added to it was, you know, for the first, like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, I close my eyes and I'm sitting in a prison cell. And I'm sitting on the bunk, and I walk to the back window, and I look out the window and see nothing but, you know, fences and razor wire, maybe a patrol car coming. I look out, I take the, you know, 4 short steps to the front of the cell, look out to a casket-shaped wing with a guard walking, jiggling his keys, and I live in that for a minute. And then I open my eyes, you know, and it's like to the beautiful home I get to wake up to, you know, all of the blessings of today, you know. Yeah,
I think that's interesting. You kind of gave me goosebumps with that, because I have these 2 leather things I wear around my wrist that a guy made for me while I was at Leavenworth. And when I put these on every day, I think about, you know, this is better.
Yeah.
Or what's going on right now is a lot better.
Yes. Yeah,
but I think about it every day when I put them on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to forget.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't have, like, and to my advantage, you know, it's like, I think, well, and as I came home, I fell right on my face when I came home. Like, that was like the worst 6 weeks of my life. And
let's talk about that, because I think that's one of the hardest things. Well, I think it's one of the biggest surprises for people who go through what we've gone through, is that you think that the prison thing is going to be the hardest part you're going to go through, and it's really hard.
Right.
I think the biggest surprise is the reentry. And people struggle so hard with that. And I think a lot of it too, Brandon, is like you brought it up, is like, what are people going to think? What do they think of me? Am I branded into, you know, do I have a scarlet letter on me? What and you got all these things that are just zooming in your mind, and everybody's looking at you. He's got to be so happy to be out of prison.
Right.
And you are, but man, you've got 1,000 things rushing at you, like you're trying to jump in a moving car.
Yeah. I remember my mom came and got me. Came home from the hole. Yeah. Under investigation. And it was, you know, my mom and my stepdad and my niece came to pick me up. And we, you know, I remember getting home, and man, I just, like, they just want me to be okay. And, you know, so I remember just getting home and just having the feelings like, man, they have no idea who I really am and who they just let in their house. And honestly, I thought they have no idea the monster they just let in their house is what the thought that came to me. And, you know, it was so, man, my brother comes and picks me up, and like, I'm at work that day, right? We're out at appointments, signing deals. And it was just so fast, right? And like for the first, like, maybe 24, 48 hours, maybe 30, I don't know. Everything was kind of okay and just moving really fast.
It's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, the second day out, I was riding with my brother, and we were driving to jobs or whatever. And man, I just got hit with this like 100 forms of fear and anxiety. And it was like, you have no idea, because, like, okay, I'm in this mindset, it's like, okay, I do want to try to do the right thing. And then the very next, you have no idea how to do the right thing. You have zero idea how to live out here. And that was like, man, that just hit me like, so, like, just like 100 forms of fear and anxiety all at once.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, man. And, you know, I got the organization I'm part of, like, they can't wait for me to come, like, because they're on the streets and, you know, inside.
Welcome you back.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can't wait to see me. And, you know, we got big plans. I built myself, you know, I'm somewhat of a figure in that world. And, you know, Brandon's coming home, or, you know, things are going to happen. And so I remember riding my brother. I was like, man, just take me home. And in my mind, it was like, I just had to go around like who I was comfortable around. I told myself that bullshit. Like, man, you just have to go be around these people. Like, that's the only people you're safe around. And the only people that get you. And that's what I did. And I remember, man, I told my mom, and, you know, the clubhouse a couple hours away, and I'm gonna go stay a couple nights, and tell my mom it's like a Wednesday, I'm back Saturday, and she's like, okay. And I gave her some, you know, line of BS. I'm going to see some girl or whatever. And, you know, as I said, I'm gonna be back on Saturday. She's like, okay, well, just don't forget, it's my birthday. I really want you to go to church with me.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course I'm going to be back and go to church with you. You know, she came every other weekend, and I was in damn near every prison in Missouri. Yeah. And, you know, it was, of course I will. You know, I go up to the gathering, and before you know it, you know, I'm getting handed some stuff. It's like, here, you know, get on your feet type of thing. And, you know, it was, man, it's like I didn't want it. I didn't take it at first. I came, you know, it's like I ended up taking it, man. And it was just like off to the races, you know, and before you know it, it's like we're clear across on the other side of the state doing this, that, and the other, and just ripping and running. And, you know, it's Saturday night, and I'm 5-6 hours away from St. Louis, you know, completely out of my mind. And all right, I'm gonna start driving in the middle of the night, and I'll be back ready for church, you know. And I just sat there and watched the clock until 6 o'clock in the morning. My phone started ringing, and of course it was my mom. And I just declined the call and just told her I'm sorry. And I turned my phone off, and it was like, man, still, no matter how out of my mind I was at that time, I still remember like the feeling of like, you are nothing but a selfish, self-centered piece of crap and garbage that gives a damn about nobody but yourself, you know? And that's what I am, like, as that, like in my disease, doing all that, like, and it was like, at that point in time, the best thing I could do was just go remove myself, grab my things and remove my mom from the tornado that I'm about to turn into, you know? And that's what I did, man. And, you know, it was I went and grabbed my stuff, and I just took off and was running with those guys, and more scared and terrified than I've ever been in my life. And not like, I'm scared to go, you know, confront somebody or something, like, just like scared of
yourself.
Yeah. And like any day, any minute, let's get, like, I'm on my last day here, you know, like I probably won't see tonight, you know, that's the way I was moving. And, you know, I was also talking to this girl at this time. You know, I came home at, you know, just been 10 years, you know, so like phones, technology, Facebook, you know, and, you know, of course, I started messaging all these girls I went to school with. It's like, all right, who's divorced, right?
I'm back. Who's free?
Yeah. And that's right. And I'll be damned if one didn't message me back, and we get to talking. And she starts telling me about this just awesome life she has. And I could tell her something different right away. And she's like, well, yeah, like I'm sober. And I'm like, what's that mean? Like, you just smoke, you just drink, you just pop pills. What's that mean? She's like, no, I'm free and clear of any mood and mind altering chemicals. And like, have this awesome life. You could have this too, you know? And I just laughed like, that's cool. That worked for you, but you don't get it. Like, this is who I am.
You don't know me.
Right. And she said, okay, well, if the pain ever gets bad enough, it's an open invitation. Just let me know. And we just kept it like, it just stayed like that. And we would FaceTime every day. She was kind of like the calm in the storm, but I would never go around her. Right. And, you know, she worked a recovery program and was, you know, offering to introduce me to some people in it. And, you know, so fast forward 4 or 5 weeks down the road, the pain had gotten bad. You know, I was, man, I had failed miserably all the way across. I lost the packages. I lost the money. I completely out of my mind. Yeah. You know, I've disappointed and upset everybody, you know, and it's like, and my whole identity was in that. Yeah. You know, my whole identity was in this figure.
That's who you were. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, damn, now I'm really no good for nobody. And I remember I was sitting on this bench in Riverfront in St. Charles, and I sat there on this bench, man, and it was like the whole world came crashing down on me that day. And, man, I was like, I was more in prison that day on that bench than I had ever been in my life. And in more like pain than I've ever been in my life. And I just didn't know how to make it stop, you know? And I remember calling my mom and like, just, I don't know, for some type of rescuing, you know? And just to maybe hear her voice. and she said, you know, Brandon, I love you, but that's all I got for you. I don't have anything else for you. You need to talk to God, and hung up on me, you know? And that was like the best thing she could have did right then. And that's exactly what I did, you know? And then I tried to go take my own life, you know, shortly at 30 minutes later. And by the grace of God, it did not work, you know, by the grace of God that somebody found me.
Isn't that amazing, though, how looking at where you are now, and I think that's why it means so much. I can still see the emotion you have for talking about it, because anybody who's been in that rock bottom moment and pulled yourself out, it stays with you. It becomes part of you, how you felt at that moment. And, you know, I want to get into how you started stepping out of that from that moment. It's probably a good time to take a break here and recognize a show sponsor, because I want to get back into how do you step out of that that moment, that rock bottom moment. What mindset do you have to be in to get there? You know, a lot of people don't like how they show up online. Many individuals think there's no hope when it comes to managing your reputation online on Google. Well, there's hope. It's called the Discoverability Company, and they can help you. Whether you're building your reputation from scratch or you're repairing search results from a negative news story, Discoverability can also help you how you're portrayed on popular AI services like ChatGPT. To learn more, visit discoverability.co. It's not .com, .co. They're even launching a do-it-yourself SEO option, a course for individuals who want to take on their search results on their own budget and speed. Listeners of Nightmare Success can take $100 off the DIY SEO course with coupon code Nightmare Success. And Nightmare Success is sponsored by the White Collar Support Group, which I think I have that here, but I don't have it in front of me. They meet every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm a member of the White Collar Support Group, and I can tell you it's a bunch of people helping each other for free to get through the criminal justice journey, whether you're just starting your journey, you've made it through to the other side. Also starting the expungement federal initiative.org. So if you want to go there, find out more. And it's called prisonist.org if you want to find out more about the White Collar Support Group. So getting back, Brandon, to that moment, and I think even somebody said to you in the paramedic said something to you about you've got something more to do or something like that in that crazy moment.
He said, Brandon, I'm supposed to tell you God's not done with you. He's got a plan for you. That's what he said.
That's big. That's huge. Like
I hear it
in a moment
day.
like that. Brandon, what did you, after that happened, how did you start stepping out? What was the mindset that you found? Where was the strength that you started stepping forward?
Well, it was life or death.
Yeah.
I was in a life or death fight, and still am, you know. So I woke up at my mom's house. Of course, they took me to the hospital. I wake up at my mom's house a couple days later, and next thing you know, I'm on my way to this meeting of recovery. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I didn't necessarily want to go, but there was no other options, right? And like, I'm just trying to figure out at this point in time, like how to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, how do I not crawl out of my skin?
Yeah.
How do I not use, you know, how do I not drink? Mm-hmm. And just trying to figure out how to be okay.
Which probably just feels like a totally foreign land to you at that point.
Yeah, it was. But here's what I had on my side. I was completely beaten. I was completely broken. And, you know,
you were ready.
People talk about, I surrendered. I can't say I surrendered, but I can definitely say I was beaten into submission. Yeah. And I was ready. You know, please tell me what to do, because I clearly don't know. I clearly cannot make decisions for my own life.
Right. Totally humble.
You know? Yeah. So that was, man, I just started. It's like I kind of didn't have a choice. Like, I couldn't even die right.
Right.
Yeah.
Couldn't get that right.
Right.
Thank God.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But so it's like, man, there was no plan B,
Yeah.
right? I was told, like, if you have any other bright ideas that you think are going to like be your fix, you have to go try that, because like this is going to work, but you have to be completely willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And get rid of all your own thinking, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, I went all in this program, and it was like, it saved my life. It saved my life, man. And, you know, I never thought there was a solution. Mm-hmm. I never thought there was a solution to the addiction. I never thought there was a solution to the hopelessness. I never thought there was a solution to this path. Like, I only thought there was one path.
You only had that path.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought I had to have that. Like,
you had
that
no
was
choice.
it. Right. And so it's like, now, man, to entertain, there actually might be a solution.
Yeah.
Because before, well, there can't be a solution. I'm 34 years old. I would have figured it out by now. Right.
Right.
And so, but to be open to that there is a solution. And, you know, it was so important for me. I had to cut all ties. Mm-hmm. And like, not like, hey, I can only talk to you every once in a while, or when I see you. It's like, it had to be a hard line. Mm-hmm. And that was extremely hard for me. That was like getting a divorce for me. Mm-hmm. You know, that was my whole family. That was everything for me. And, you know, so that was extremely hard for me. But somebody had me do was write out the characteristics I was looking for in a person, because I was told I had to start surrounding myself with people who had the things I wanted.
Yep.
And first and foremost,
it's great advice, by the way.
None of the shit you can touch and see is on it. Mm-hmm. People that had the integrity, the relationship with God, that had the family, like those, you know, all of those things, and figuring out how they got there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I was told just to keep an open mindset, and just to try to do the next right thing. Mm-hmm. And then after that, try to do the next right thing after that. And it was like, man, it was so...
It's incremental.
Right. And I remember, you know, when you talk about like moments and days, you know, your sobriety date or whatever that is, it's like, yes, that's important. But I remember... I don't remember what date it was, but I remember exactly where I was standing. Like the first time I looked in the mirror and didn't hate myself. I remember the first conversation I ever had with, you know, my in-laws, and I didn't have to lie to them. That was the first conversation I had ever met somebody's parents and didn't have to lie to them.
Wow.
About who I am.
That's deep.
You know, and I remember that feeling walking out of there. And it was like, man, that was the stuff that started happening in those next months, you know, and I'm going to meetings every night. I'm doing, like, I'm in a spiritual fight for my life. But
you're doing the work.
Right. I'm all in on developing the spiritual foundation. And, you know, I went and got back, I got my job back in the union. I went and, you know, I was hanging hardy board siding on a new construction site. And, you know, I was there for, I don't know, a few months. And I remember it was like January when I got on out there, maybe a little before that, but I'm out there and I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. You know, I'm having to get rides there. I don't have my license or anything like that. I don't have anything. I'm living at my mom's house. I got a 300 credit score. She just had to buy me a cell phone. That's where I'm at.
Gotcha.
And I'm looking around thinking like the neighbors across the street were probably my age.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm looking around at everybody else my age thinking that this is going to take me so long to get caught up.
Yeah.
And so I wrote everything what I considered to caught up to be, you know, and I wrote it all out. And by my plans, it was going to take me like 5 to maybe 7 years at the most, what I consider caught up to be. And it wasn't, I wanted to be able, you know, it was first the relationship with God on there. I wanted to be able to heal this relationship. I wanted to be able to save this amount, buy this truck, get my license, get insurance, you know, that type of
basics.
Stuff. Right. And then eventually it's okay. I want to be able to buy a home, and then be able to buy an investment property. That was what was on there as far as tangible things. And, you know,
and you wrote it down.
I wrote it down, and I went and showed him with the mentor I was working with at the time. And we went over all of them. He's like, man, those are awesome. You know, and he's like, but here's the deal. He's like, if you don't if you don't establish the truly priceless assets, you're going to die, and you're not going to get any of that shit. And if you happen to get lucky and get some of it, you're going to lose it anyway. And I believed him, you know, and I went all in on developing those priceless assets and doing the maintenance required every day. And, you know, and I didn't lose sight of those. I stayed keeping them fresh in my mind. And it was so crazy because it was like, man, just stuff started happening. And it's like, damn, how'd that truck get in the driveway? How'd that happen? Yeah. And it was, man, I looked up and I looked up in 16 months and everything that was on that list that I thought was going to take me 6-7 years, every one of them. Yeah. And it was like, that's when I realized like a lot, I learned a lot over that. And one, realizing the power of intentionality and just knowing what we want. Yeah. And then, but I also realized a lot of things in this first season, man. Fuck, try not to get emotional. And one of the things is like that I'm the only one that binds me to my past. And if I can't get over that, I'm always going to stay there. Yeah. Right. And so, like you said earlier, I really had to start looking at, like, I can't be a victim and a victor at the same time. Nope. And I don't like being a victim. No. And
takes away all your strength.
Man, I was a victim for so long. And really, honestly, probably up until like, I don't know, a couple months after I came home, you know, that I was really like actually willing to take ownership over it. Like, man, there's one person who's responsible for the condition of my life right now. That's me. Yeah. It doesn't matter what, you know, who did what, you know, 30, 40 years ago. Right. And so it was like, like I was mad at the state and they did this and that. And it was like, no, it was all me. Like, it was all me. And until once I really started taking that perception on, then I was able to like start learning on a different level from not only the past experience, but definitely what I was experiencing today. Right. But in that time, you know, it was like, so I'm working out in a union. I'm working out in the union for like 4 or 5 months, and it's like, things are going good. Right. I got the truck, you know, I'm in recovery. Things are going well. Good. Yeah. But it's like, man, I'm also at the same time not feeling like this is where I belong out here. And I developed like carpal tunnel, like overnight from not using those muscles for so long. So they send me to the doctor. Let me back up. I worked through it for months, man. Like, bought every damn hand massager cream, and really nothing's working. Stuff too. And you know, finally, I go to my foreman, which I did not want to do that. You know, of course, that they frown upon that. You know, he's like, fine, man, yeah, go to the doctor. I go to the doctor, and they're like, we're going to run these tests. We'll get the results back in 30 days. Go sit at home, and we'll let you know if we're going to take care of it then. Okay. I'm like, and you can't work. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound great. Right. And I go home, and I was like, well, I can't just sit here. And so at that point in time, I started answering like next door apps, like for $100, $200, like whatever the handyman job was, right? And I just start stacking these up. And, you know, it's like, next thing you know, it's like, I'm making more out here than I was in the union as a journeyman carpenter. Yeah. And, you know, it's like, okay, it happened for a week. Let's see if we do 2 weeks. And, you know, it keeps going. And it's like a few weeks in, you know, I looked at Kelly, my wife, now girlfriend at the time, and it's like, you know, I don't think I'm supposed to go back. I think we're supposed to start a company.
God, isn't that amazing how that happened though? You were told to go home and not work. Yeah. And you figured out another way to work. Yeah. That created this idea that, hey, maybe I could do this on my own. Yeah. Maybe I could create something.
And, you know, it's like, I think we're supposed to start a company. And, you know, she said, let's go. I believe in you.
That's huge.
And I had not heard that before. Yeah. I'm sure my mom and dad said that, but I hadn't heard it, you know.
That hit solid.
And man, if she wouldn't have said that, like if she wouldn't have said that at that time, like who knows? Like who knows? Probably wouldn't be here. If it was like, I think you should probably play it safe. Like we need the insurance.
Yeah, we got to have it.
Yeah. But so at that point in time, man, I just went all in. And I, like, next thing you know, it's $100, you know, it's $100 hour jobs, $200 jobs, $300, and it just keeps climbing, right? And I remember there was this customer, and she was a woman, probably about 75 years old, and it reminded me of The Notebook, because she would go see her husband every day in a nursing home, and she had a villa, and I'm replacing the decking on her deck, and there's no stairs around back, and we're just walking through the house. And it's about a $3,000 or $4,000 job, and just a super, super sweet lady. And you know, she was hesitant. She's been burnt in the past, but just like a lady, I was like, I'm happy you're going with me because I know I'm going to make it. Like, I know you're going to get the service you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, you know, it's the first day, and it's probably a 2 or 3 day job. First day on the job, and I'm there in the morning. I get going for about an hour, and she walks outside and says, "Hey, I'm getting ready to leave. If you go anywhere, just lock up for me." And you know, she did, and she left, and I went inside, and she's like, you know, use the bathroom whenever. I went inside, and I was using the bathroom. And I remember washing my hands and looking in the mirror, and it's like, man, if this old lady only knew, if she only knew who she left in this house. And it was like, the very next thing that popped in my head was like, she does know. She knows exactly who she left in her house. And that was like that was a moment for me for sure. And because like those two voices pop up all the time. And whatever one we start paying attention to more is going to be the dominant one, right? And it was like, I replay that to myself all the time.
You know, it's funny, Brandon, you say that, because I had some guy that he said something very, very similar to what you said. And he said, you have these crazy, you know, voices that you've got. And he said, what I learned to do was, he said, it's like driving a car, and you let the crazy person sit in the front seat, and they get to change the radio stations and do all that. And he said, I just decided the crazy person's going to be in there. I'm just going to have to make him sit in the back, and I'm changing the radio station, and I'm driving.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a pretty good analogy. They're always there.
Yeah. That's, you know, somebody had told me years ago, you know, it's like be very careful about listening to yourself, but be very intentional about talking to yourself. And that's one thing I have to do consistently on a regular basis is like speak out loud with whatever the thing is. And a lot of times I got to speak over the voice that's going on in my head. Sure. So, you know, I got my wife, like, who you yelling at?
Who you talking to?
But no, it was, you know, so as I was going through this and starting the company, you know, it really started to take off. And I had the job started getting bigger and bigger. And I remember,
was it roofing immediately?
No, it was everything.
It was everything.
Anything you'd pay me for. Yep. Right. And it was like
Brandon J. everything.
Yes. Yeah. Kitchens, basements, decks.
Right.
And at that point in time, especially in the first couple of months, I mean, I'd come change your light bulbs if you'd pay me for it.
Sure.
You know, and literally anything. And it was, you know, so as we're going through that first year, you know, that now, like by the end of that year, you know, we're doing a lot of decks, some basement renovations, stuff like that, remodels, kitchen remodels, full kitchen remodels. Like it's going well. And I remember, man, I knew I'm making more money than I ever thought possible, but this isn't like where I wanted to stay. It's not about the money. It's like this keeping this machine going and growing. It's not where I felt called to, right? And so I broke it down to the simplest form possible, which is residential roofing, right? You know, it's a roof. You know, we're going to be done most of the time in a day, you know, and maybe 2 days. That basement, we're going to be in and out of your home for months, right? A lot of times. And really, so we stopped doing everything but roofing, and I focused on really getting down those systems and really building a brand behind that. And stopped doing everything else, you know. And at that point in time, that first year, I used to play a game, what's the least amount of money I could survive on. I had it down to like $120 a week, right? And I'm just saving, stacking. And because I just saw a bigger vision, and I knew that we needed capital for it. And, you know, at that first year, I'm wearing my tool pouches, you know, 12, 13 hours a day, doing all the back end work at night. And now, after this first year, I'm about to put the tool pouches down, switch to subs, and really focus on sales and marketing and building the brand. And that's what, and started knocking doors, you know, I never had any sales experience, and just started knocking doors and doing online
That's an
trainings.
experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I was 22, 23 years old down in Texas. And there's so many different things that happens when you are knocking doors. And it's also something that you figure out, you know, you're talking about systems. And if you pick up certain things and you create systems that you could duplicate. I had this lady, she was down in Caldwell, Texas, we tracked all the numbers and everything, and she was getting into every door.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I got to go ride with her.
Yeah.
What in the world is she doing? And I found out that she wasn't using our language that we taught.
Yeah.
She was saying, I'm Sherry Elstner, and I'm from so-and-so funeral home, and I just need to come inside and visit with you for a few minutes. I thought, damn, she never asked him to come in.
Right.
She needs to come in.
Right. She's not. Yeah. She's
And
not asking
all of a
them.
sudden, that person at the door is not saying yes or no.
Right.
And that's what little kids do.
Right.
I need to go to the park. I
Right.
need to go swim.
Yeah.
And we changed everything, overnight on that. But it's funny how, you gain a whole nother sense of humility.
Yeah.
But you also gain confidence when you do that.
For sure. That's like whenever I started out there, man, I knocked doors for like the first month and a half and didn't get a deal. But I just kept trying the new things, right? And by the end of my career out there, I would literally go on like 3-week-long streaks where I'd close every person I talked to. And one of the big things I stopped doing was I stopped asking questions and just politely telling them what we're doing, and that's what we teach our entire team now. And that's, so with that being said, man, over the next couple of years, I ran as hard as I could out in that field, right? And knocking doors, working sun up to sundown. And, we building the company, scaling the company. And, I'd have like anywhere 4 or 5, maybe 6 sales consultants, and at that time, we're in the first 2-3 years, it's, man, I'm getting asked a lot, like, Brandon, why do you care if I drink every night? Why do you care if I go to the gym? Why do you care if I save money or how much money I make? All the things, right? And, you're being unreasonable. You're expecting too much. And it used to make me question myself, because it is like, man, I really do truly do my best to live by all this shit I say and talk about. Right.
Do I do that?
Yeah.
Do I embody that?
Right. And do I do it perfect? Absolutely not. But that is my intention every day. And, so it used to make me question myself as a leader, Brandon, you're expecting too much. And I learned through experience, man, over the years, I wasn't expecting too much. I was just looking for it in the wrong people. Right. And, at this time, I remember I started working with a professional coach right about this time. And, he's like, Brandon, where are you at and where are you trying to go? And then the next question, what's that culture like? The culture's okay, but so-and-so's got it messed up. Yeah. And, Brandon's culture's only what you tolerate. And that was like a gut punch for me at that time. Culture's only what you tolerate. So he doesn't have it messed up. You have it messed up.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's, you said you played sports. I played sports. One guy can screw up a team.
For sure. And it was kind of everybody. Yeah. And I had let it get there. Right. And me just not knowing, thinking, wasn't thinking correctly. Yeah. So as soon as I got some perspective, right. And he's like, write out 25 characteristics you're looking for in a teammate. And then go remove. And then I call him back, and with that 25 characteristics, he's like, all right, I want you to go remove everything. Essentially, that's not that. And I did that.
It takes some big balls.
Yeah,
you cleared it down to 0 to get back to what you were looking for.
Well, it was in really down to 1, and he ended up having to get removed later anyway. Kind of just unhealthy loyalty, but regardless, I dialed in exactly what I was looking for. Yep. Right. And just this relentless rinse and repeat cycle of finding people that fits that mold. Right. And having a low tolerance for anything but that. Because I saw the opportunity in especially in all the positions, but in the one I'm speaking on specifically now is in that sales consultant position, that if somebody really went all in on this, the impact that could have on their life. Absolutely. And it's like, man, I only want to work with people that are willing to go all in and stay all in. Right. And I only want the top producers, and that's it. And we still hold true to that, to where our bottom is other people's tops, for sure. Right. And just that standard inside of our company. And it's not about making the most money. It's about us just all truly doing our best and becoming our best. Right. And whatever the result of that is the result. Right. But not, so we focus a lot on the personal development, because people are making a lot of money. Right. And I saw at that time, did a kind of a high level overview. And like nobody was developing the people, and this super low level of success kind of plagued our industry, where people would, triple their income, maybe they start making 100 or 150, whatever, and they made that in 6 months. Well, now they're just going to take the next 6 months off. Right. And then they look up in 5 years and they're exact same place in life. Right. Right. And so we really want to work with the people that are going to take full advantage of it and truly go all in and stay all in. And I want people to be able to look up in 5 years and like, way before 5 years, but like year by year, start to be able to live life more on their terms. Right. And if if they're going to use this as a vehicle, maximizing it, right? Yeah. And so if they choose to use this as a vehicle, we want to give them all the tools to not only be successful, like in the roofing industry.
No, you're building a self-development company.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it really is. But that is what makes a really great company, though.
Right.
You know, and I think the right people really recognize that, and they're drawn to it, and then they thrive in it. But it took a lot, and it takes a lot as a leader to recognize what you want and then build that, because it's easier to just kind of let it go, let it flow. Everything's kind of okay. But and the other thing that you brought up, I don't want to gloss over, taking coaching. You know, there is so many people that don't want to humble themselves and ask for help of something that they don't know. But if you do that, God, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll probably have, I will probably have a coach the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, so, and from my experience in this, right, and I had been in recovery, so I feel like, you know, recovery is a personal development program that your life depends on, you know, and it is like every personal development program I've been a part of, all is the same core principles and core values, essentially, as those 12 steps in recovery. But with that being said, I realized, like, okay, like in the first it was like between year 2 and 3, it was like all of a sudden we have this like $5-7 million machine. It was like, holy crap, how'd this happen?
Wow.
Now what do I like? If I don't figure out how to do like something with this and manage it, like it's going to all come crumbling down.
Yeah.
And so I started flying across the country to force myself into rooms of people who are there, you know, who were where I wanted to be.
Get around the people that are doing it.
Exactly. And I joined a mastermind, Apex, down in Texas. You know, Ryan Stuman runs that. And that was super beneficial for me. And, you know, it's like the personal development aspect of, somebody had told me, for anything to get better, the first coach I started working with, and this is before I started flying down to Texas, for anything to get better, I had to get better. And I looked at, like, I didn't look like I owned the company. I looked at it, and still do, like I get the opportunity to steward it. Yeah. And if I stop being a good steward of it, I'm going to lose it. And part of being a good steward of it is I have to go retain the information that these people need to be able to continue to grow. Yeah. And not to me, like me, myself, obviously as well. But so it's, man, I had to go figure it out. I had to go get this information so I could pass it back down. So I started flying down to Texas, and, you know, there was a lot of roofing contractors in that, home service industry contractors. And again, people, owners of companies that were where I wanted to be, and that were willing to share their information with me, were willing to help me, you know? Yeah. And that was like, but I had to be willing to be honest about where I'm really at. Exactly. And what I'm really struggling with, right? And so that's, man, like I said, I was flying to Texas monthly, you know, for a couple years. And I still stay heavily involved in personal development, but that was so important for me to get next to the people who were there or had done it already. You know, and
you just whipped out a whole bunch of good stuff there for tips of people who want to build, because you can't stay in a box. You've got to reach out and get better, grow knowledge of, and then bring that back and implement. Right. But you can't implement once you find it and you know what it is that you need it, and then you bring it back and you implement it, and then it grows even bigger. Right.
And that's like, man, I don't know, when setting the ego completely to the side.
You have to.
And I do believe.
And there's still ego. You know, people who are in business and they're growing companies, there's ego. Right. But you have to set it aside to humble yourself to go ask for things that you don't know. And people who are at the top of the food chain, it's really hard to do.
Yeah. And like one thing I realized too early on is that, one, having the humility and to know what I don't know. Yeah. And to admit what I don't know. Yeah. Right. It's like people think, oh, I don't want to sound stupid, or I don't want to look less than or weak or whatever the thing is. Yeah. And it's like, so whenever at the end of that first year, whenever we stopped doing all the other stuff and just started doing roofing, like I said, I didn't know any of the systems. I didn't know, I knew how to install a roof, but I didn't know what to charge a square foot. Right. And there was a lot of things like that I didn't know about roofing. And so I wrote down a list of questions, and I went and knocked on every roofing company door in our market and to sit down with whoever would sit down with me with this list of questions. Yeah. And some of them would sit down with me, and some would tell me to kick rocks. Yeah. But the thing is, I'm still doing that same thing today.
Yeah.
It's just on much bigger company doors.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, Brandon, it seems like you got it kind of figured out by right now.
Yeah.
You know,
I got it figured out to here.
What I got figured out last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm in uncharted territories.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other thing that you've got that will not leave you is you have good systems in place.
Yeah.
And if you have good systems in place and those grow and duplicate, then what you can do it all.
It's what, and I think a big thing, like, and I want to touch on it too really quick, is it's like that's what's awesome about the world and country we live in. And for people that are inside, like I said earlier, we're the only ones that bind us to our past.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about the country we live in, if we're willing to be honest and do the right thing and truly bust our ass and have the faith, like, man, we can achieve damn near whatever we want out here.
Huge point. And I think the other thing that's big, Brandon, is you're really good at telling your story. I think when people get out, and I don't think that's just for people to get out. For anybody who's stuck in a prison of their own mind, you've got to be able to step out and own your story, because if you don't own your story, somebody else owns your story. And that limits you to whatever you're going to do. But if you own it, you come to grips with it and you can tell it, it helps you grow and it doesn't limit you. And I think that's, so many people are afraid that they're going to be found out.
Right.
And the biggest thing is to be found out yourself,
Exactly.
and then share it out to whatever, to get whatever you need.
And to add something on that, it was years before I shared my story like publicly.
Yeah.
I would share it in the recovery community or,
Yeah.
out at a men's house or something like that, in that type of environment. But I was not going to share it publicly I was going to do it, but I needed more time.
Yeah.
I needed more time to show the world and have more evidence that I wasn't that person any longer.
Yeah,
right. And I constantly had a couple people in my ears like, no, man, you need to share your story. We want to go on this ride with you. You've already done so much.
Yeah.
Cause this was about, 3 years in, 4 years in, life is looking awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like beautiful home, thriving business, beautiful wife, family, everything.
Yep.
And, I ended up putting the story out there. I had a guy, whatever, he taped a bunch of my mug shots. He printed them out, wrote a paragraph, like essentially we're robbing the insurance companies and all this, unlawful stuff on it, and went and taped them to all the doors in the neighborhoods we were working on. I had one of my guys call me super upset, and he's like, man, I'm about to ruin your day. And I definitely was upset, but I called a mentor and was like, all right, I'm sharing my story online tomorrow. I won't ever deal with this again. Yep. Right. And he's like, okay, let's talk about it. I like the idea, because we talked about sharing my story before. He's like, I like the idea of you sharing your story, but why are you doing it? Mm-hmm. Because if you're doing it as a tactical maneuver to get in front of some stuff, I don't think you're going to get the result you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So maybe pray about it for a couple days and let's revisit. Mm-hmm. And I took the suggestion. And in the meantime, I had somebody suggest to do this closer competition like a week later. Okay. And I was like, man, that's it. And they was sharing your story, right? But the whole point is I shared my story, the good, the bad, the ugly, the PG version, of course, out there to everybody. Yeah. And I knew that some people wouldn't like it, but I also believed that a lot of people would. Yeah. And it was like this, it was the second I put it out there, man, it was immediately like that 100-pound backpack I've been carrying around all of a sudden felt significantly lighter. And it brought me to a level with my team. Because it's not like I would lie about it. I wouldn't offer it up.
Yeah, it wasn't talked about.
Right. And so it just brought me to be able to lead my team and like on a genuine level.
Genuine, vulnerable, all real.
Yeah. And it was like, man, it just like magnified all of it in a really good way. Yeah. And it was like simultaneously, it was like 90% of the city started cheering us on. Yeah. 10% started hating. Yeah.
And you know what? The thing about comeback stories is people love comeback stories. Yeah. But there's certain people that never liked what you were doing in the first place, and they'll always be haters. Right. And there's no way you'll ever satisfy them. But man, there's a whole bunch of people that love seeing somebody grab hold, make something. Nothing's been easy, but you went ahead and gritted it out. And then there's a whole bunch of people that are also benefiting from you finding yourself, because this is a great company. And a lot of families are benefiting from you feeling good about yourself and being intentional and knowing what you want. And if you don't know all the answers, you're going out and finding them. But it all helps, not just you, but it's helping all the people that are with you. And that's an impact thing. That's I've always told my girls, I got 3 girls, and I see, whatever you do, just make a difference. Yeah. Whatever that is, just make a difference with it, and you'll be okay.
Right.
And that's what you're doing, Brandon, with everything that's happened with you, which I should probably ask you, because I ask everybody this question when we come to this part in the interview, is all this stuff that happened to you, from your kid, the challenges and going through and then finding this thing that has made you feel the way you do now. What do you think's your biggest takeaway through all of this to everybody that listens to this show?
That's we are the only ones that bind us to our past. And man, at the end of the day, we can have anything we're willing to work for out here. And don't stay stuck in that problem. Don't stay stuck in that cycle. Have that courage and figure out what it is that you want. And just zero in on that. Go all in on that. Like there's so much opportunity out here, and I fed into this lie of that's the only thing this world had for me. That I fell into the lie that was who I was. And man, at the end of the day, it was all a lie. It was all a lie. And so I would ask you to challenge yourself. And are you buying into that same lie? Because I promise you there's always a solution. I'm living proof of it, man. And by the grace of God, we get to sit here and do this talk today. Yeah. But fight. It's going to be it's going to be the hardest thing I feel like we've ever done in our life, but man, it's so worth it. Just fight.
I love it. What a great takeaway. For those people out there, what you just said there, everybody's built up prisons in their own mind. It's how do you get out of that, and fighting your way out is what you do. And you find your purpose, and you just step into it and you find the answers and go out and get it and keep moving. And like you said, those crazy thoughts never, leave you. You shrink them down because you're talking to yourself about the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's just really good stuff, Brandon. I love your story. I love what you're doing. I hope you keep just doing more of it. I hope you get out there and speak more too. But you also have your podcast, Whatever It Takes. And I think you drop those shows every week and film on Mondays. And if anybody's looking for a book out there, I've got one, Nightmare Success, Loyalty, Betrayal, Life Behind Bars, Adapting, Finally Breaking Free. Leave a review on Apple. I don't know what it does with the algorithm, but if you do that, it helps the show. If you want to know more about what I'm doing, it's BrentCassity.com. I spell it wrong. I spell it with a TY and not a DY. And if anybody wants a roof out there and you're in this area, man, Brandon J. Roofing, they know their stuff. They just come over to my house. They just went over to my mother-in-law's house. There's a big difference in how they handle things. So I'm going to give a big shout out to Brandon J. Roofing, just on another path there. But Brandon, man, thanks so much for sharing your whole story today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate the opportunity. It's I try to get as much of the information out there to the people that need it that I can,
It's good stuff, man.
I also wanted to say too, if you guys want to check us out on WIT, Spotify. It's WIT. It stands for Whatever It Takes. And then hit us up on the socials, Brandon James on Facebook and Brandon J1122 on Instagram.
A lot of Instagram followers. I think Brandon's got like 70 some odd thousand of Instagram followers. It's a few people that are listening to this guy's message. As I used to say to my people when I was writing my emails back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Brandon James. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It was really good.
Nightmare Success, in and out.